And we're back. Welcome, one and all, to the thousands of you that have been wanting and waiting for this show. It is our first official show of Bean Talk, which is the internet's only and best bean show. Now, my name is Joel, and for those of you who haven't been following me for years and years, I am the founder of String Bean Studios, which is a advocacy. It's not necessarily an advocacy group, but we basically make films where all of our profits go to bean-related issues and helping beans out all over the world. And as always, my co-hosts, which I love to death, we have Adam.
Happy to be here.
And we have Chris.
Thank you for having me.
No problem, guys. Now, Adam, let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Some of you that haven't been following me for a while now.
Pretty early on in my bean career, but in a few years I've been out in the workforce. I've been part of a bean lobbyist movement, as well as I've graded myself to a level 2 sommelier status to pair their beans with any type of wine or main entree. Let me know. My phone number will be down in the description below.
Well, not quite, but we'll get it there eventually. And Chris, I know you're a little bit new on the bean scene, but if you got anything kind of to plug, anything to add, the floor is yours.
No, I'm only in my second year of my studies, so I don't have quite the experience that you guys have, but I'm just happy to be a part of the Bean Advocate group and just kind of get my foot in the door of the whole thing, and hopefully we can go out there and make a difference in the Lima bean community.
Absolutely.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we'd like to discuss at today's episode, of course, there's so many questions that you all viewers have asked about beans, different types of beans, but there's a little bit of a bean that's close to my heart. It's kind of been in the underground scene for a while now, in the bean scene. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding with this particular bean. There's a lot of ill will wished towards this bean, and that is the Lima bean. And I'm, for transparent reasons, I'm going to go ahead and put this out here now. Today's sponsor is the Lima bean. I know some of you are asking yourselves, how did we get the Lima bean to sponsor this podcast? And my only answer to you is that when you're the only official bean podcast or show, it's fairly easy to talk to Bean Corporate and get some of those sponsorships. So again, we'd like to thank Mr. Lima Bean for sponsoring the show.
Yes, thank you so much.
And really with that in mind, we're going to go ahead. What we're going to talk about today is really, what is a Lima bean? Where did it come from? Some of the stigmas behind it, some of the issues standing in the way of Lima beans, and really just some interesting facts and tidbits that we've come across. Now, there's going to be some missing holes probably occasionally. We are bean experts in a sense, but there are some things even the higher up bean historians don't know. And that's what we're kind of here to work through. We're kind of here to figure out some of the just take our love and knowledge of beans and just put it out there for the world to see and hear and just really enjoy. Now, I know, Adam, the Lima beans are really near and dear to your heart, as well as Chris. I know you were just talking to me last month about some of the issues that you were facing in your studies when it pertained to Lima beans. And really, I want to hand the floor off to you guys to kind of really start this journey off with our Lima bean centered episode today. So I'll let you guys start in on your spiel.
Okay. So I think it'd be beneficial if we just kind of start off and listeners what kind of sparked this podcast to start, especially on the lima bean. I think it'd be notable to state that there was an article that came out from oakpark.com, and it was an article titled "Lima Beans Show Some Respect, Please." Now, Chris, I believe you're a little more familiar with it, and Joel, you may be a little more familiar with this article than I am. I haven't read it in a couple of days, but it was by David Hammond, and if you guys want to go through it and kind of show why we're highlighting the lima bean because of this article, that'd be go ahead.
Yeah, I think Chris, you'd be really good for this. I know both of us shared a lot of interest in this article. We've been following him for a while now, and it just really showcases the plight of the lima bean. So take it away.
Yeah, as we were discussing, the lima bean does not have a lot of respect, and for some reason it just has a really bad reputation. I don't know if it's because of its taste or whatever, or just, I don't know. It's like you talk to any little kid and they just hate eating lima beans for some reason. I don't know if it's the word or the appearance or whatever, just like scares them. But
it's indoctrination, but we can.
Yeah, we were talking about respecting the lima bean. Did you know that April 20th is actually dedicated to lima beans? Some people would say, well, why not baked beans, 420? No, it's actually Respect the Lima Bean Day.
I can believe it. I can believe it.
And it's kind of weird, how people hate lima beans. Celebrate April 20th, Respect Lima Beans Day. They need to be respected. You know why? Because all the health benefits to lima beans. Heart healthy, protein, tons and tons of vitamins, and prevents early diseases. But there's a right way and a wrong way to fix lima beans. I think, Adam, you were learning in your studies about some of the wrong ways to fix lima beans, or what you should do.
Yeah, that's totally true, Chris. So when you're looking at the recipes for lima beans, you notice that there is no raw lima bean snack anywhere on a street food or on any type of food network or anything out there that just incorporates lima beans. And that's because lima beans actually, when you break up the molecules, mostly by chewing, it creates a molecular composition called hydrogen cyanide. And it is, if people don't know what cyanide is yet, it is a very potent poison. Kill a lot of people very, very quickly in small dosages. So always steam your beans, cook your beans, boil your beans, whatever you do, you have to destroy that molecular composition of that bean and make it something that is edible for humans. Then of course, if you want to use it against your enemies, that is to your own devices. But the Bean Podcast does not support or condone any of that activity.
Yeah, and it's great you added that last bit because, throughout the years, so many people have taken that negative stigma that lima beans somehow relish killing people, when in fact it's just because lima beans are vastly misunderstood, and people don't appreciate cooking the bean and really honing that craft of cooking the bean so that they don't ever run into those issues.
Oh, exactly. I think there's tons of recipes. There's farmer's caviar, oxtail stew, just even basic roasted lima beans are, some of the top recipes off of any website. And if you're interested in tasting the bean, it's also known as a butter bean because of its flavor. You might want to double check that and check into what you may be able to incorporate into your recipes. As Chris was saying, it's highly nutritious and it's great fiber, great protein. It's a great way to diet. I just think it's something a lot of people should incorporate, and I think we need to start looking back towards the origin and see, how maybe it's farmed or where it's coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, I believe you're kind of an origin expert.
Yes, the lima bean actually originated in Peru 6,000 years ago, and the capital of Peru, Lima, or Lima, which leads into a controversy we'll get into later, but Lima, Peru, 6,000 years ago is where the lima bean originated and made its way to, all the way across Central America and to the United States and everywhere in North America. So
now I kind of want to get into the bean controversy. Lima. That is a controversy that has plagued the bean world for centuries now. And really, it's quite sickening when you think about it, because originally, from historians, all have said that it should be the Lima bean. It's named after the Peru city, like you mentioned, but for whatever reason, after years and years of use in North America, for whatever reason, they've changed it to Lima bean. And really, our bean historians have been working round the clock here at Bean Talk to find an answer to that, but we just haven't found a concrete, 100% scientifically backed historical paper. But that kind of leads me into the next segment, which I'd like to talk about. Bean fact or bean fiction. Now, here at the Bean Talk Show, we never say fiction. It's not in our vocabulary. We never try to espouse any type of fiction, because we realize how important beans are to all of you out there, the thousands of you that watch the Bean Talk Show every week. And we really, really appreciate your support. I can't stress that enough. Now, my next segment, it's going to get a little wild, a little crazy. And, if you want to suspend your disbelief just, for a second, I think that'll help you out just a bit. But before I get into that, I just want to make sure that, we really have our baseline bean. Our Lima bean is prepped and ready to really be delved deep into. So I'm going to ask, Chris, Adam, do you have anything else to add about the origins of the Lima bean? I know that I'm talking with Kelly right now. She's notifying me that we are getting calls right now for the Bean Talk Show. And she said that, you're specifically going to be, monitoring those. And if anything good pops up, you'll let us know. Sometimes we have calls on the show, sometimes we don't. It really just depends on time. But I just want to remind all of our viewers out there that there is a bean line for you guys to talk about.
Before we transition into this next segment here, I think this is a great time to utilize the audience here and ask what their opinion is. Lima or Lima? Put a 1 in the chat for Lima. Put a 2 in the chat for Lima. 1 for Lima, 2 for Lima. Let us know what you think.
That's a great,
and Joel
great
and
idea.
Chris, which one are you guys? I've even heard of, obviously I've stated other names for butter, but I've even heard of it called a Chad bean. What do you guys call it?
Adam, I'm a purist through and through. I call it Lima. And only Lima to this entire podcast thus far, just to, accommodate our American audience.
Yes, it's Lima for me. Actually, before my bean study days, I actually thought that Lima and butter bean were 2 different beans. So, yeah. I know that's kind of crazy, but I mean, hey, you learn something new every day. So
the tens of thousands of dollars you're spending at Bean U is really paying off, Chris. It's just really nice to see your beandom and your historical bean knowledge just flourish. It really brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, I think obviously Chris is going to the same school I went to in Del Monte, Texas, and I think it definitely paid off. And I'm going to go into the history a little bit later, but let's check those lines one more time and see if we have anything coming in before I start getting into a little bit of the history about why we should respect the bean and get a little bit back on course of why we're in the original article what we were talking about here.
I think Kelly's working on screening someone right now, but I think she's going to be transferring a call to my desk here in a second if we want to take this call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, it's coming in. Hello, you're on Bean Talk. Yeah, this is Tim from Texas, from the Houston area. I love your guys' show. Wish you great success. And I got a question for Adam. Where do they grow these lima beans here in the United States? I haven't heard of them growing them anywhere here in Texas. Thanks.
for calling in. We do appreciate everyone calling in. It's always amazing to have people that want to participate in the podcast. It allows us to open this up to everyone else. But it can grow anywhere with a moderate climate, to be honest. We've heard of them being grown on Mount Vernon. I know a lot of the Midwest can grow them once in a while, along with the soybeans and sorghum and other type of plant types as well. And I think that you have to be very careful about where you classify them at, because they can be grown in Idaho. I've heard of a couple cases, and a lot of the time it's from Central and South America. It's usually from Mexico to Argentina is where they originated. But we do have a couple places in North America where the conquistadors did bring them up, and it became more of a staple into our American diet, which the soldiers ate with ham and beans, is what their Revolutionary War diet was. And I believe, Joel, you might know a little bit about the Mount Vernon issue with the beans in the military of George Washington. Is that correct?
I was gonna say it is very, very interesting that you mentioned Mount Vernon. My dissertation, in my graduate level studies at BNU, was actually primarily focused on revolutionary beans, and that can be in the sense of beans that really took off and Revolutionary War beans. Now, scientists have, they do a lot of great things, but really historians are where my heart is. They tell the facts the way that they were. They delve deeper, and they try to find the unknowable and make it known. Now, what I can tell you currently is that at Mount Vernon, there are fields and fields of bush lima beans, also known as the butter bean, like previously mentioned. Now, our researchers are still, of course, trying to really hone in on where the butter bean name came from, but some speculate that this is one of the earliest times that the butter bean name was used. But the real reason I'm bringing up Mount Vernon and the lima beans is that some researchers and scientists and historians have all gotten together, and there are some interesting coincidences about the lima beans at Mount Vernon. And I want everyone to, hold off on your comments that I'm crazy. Where is this going, Joel? This is a bean talk show, not a history show. But I just want you to hold on for just a bit, because I'm gonna basically reveal some truths to you. Now, this is half my belief. This is somewhat supported, but not 100%. But actually, during the Revolutionary War, at the very first few years, we actually weren't winning. We were losing quite bad. We were low on resources, low on food, low on ammunition, low on men. And, we were almost down and out. And what happened was, and this is, of course, this is not 100% fact, but this is my opinion mixed in with a little bit of fact, but it is historically known that during a period of the Revolutionary War, George Washington made it to where there would be going to be a bunch of lima beans planted and grown for his army. And right after they picked their first harvest and started passing out beans to his men, and they were eating them, we started winning the Revolutionary War. Now, some people say I'm crazy for believing that a simple bean had anything to do with the tides of war turning, but I think that the data's there. The historians that I'm with every other month to talk about new findings in the bean world all kind of generally talk that the lima bean really pushed General Washington and his men over the edge and really allowed them to win the war. They gave them sustenance. I think there were stories, Adam, if I remember correctly, that when men would run out of bullets, that they would literally use dry lima beans to shoot the English. They would sneak the famous Christmas morning when George Washington snuck into the camps of the British. Many people think, how did he kill all these people and no one know? Well, he not only used knives, but he also used lima beans. Because like we were mentioning earlier, lima beans, if not cooked properly, are very toxic to human beings. It's cyanide. So what
That is
better
totally true.
what better way to kill your enemy, which we do not condone. Do not condone killing of anyone. But Washington during war times factually took lima beans and used them against his enemies. And I think that he used lima beans to win the war. And I know you think the viewers out there, the thousands of you watching, waiting for me to make some type of sense. I really think the historical data backs that up. I don't know what your guys' thoughts
that's pretty
are.
Controversial.
It is,
I think it's controversial, but it's.
I think there's information there.
There is information there. It is partially true. I think you even see that in today's influence on today's weapons. There's been notice of SWAT teams using the beanbag guns, and they're actually using lima beans inside of those, as well as some modern controversy. Presidentials. I think the lima bean could pretty much be called the presidential bean. Just in 2016, in the electoral race, there was the Trump and Barack Obama divide on which one liked green and white lima beans and which one was better. Each have their own distinct, appearance, taste, and nutritional value, and it caused a massive uproar. And then we also have the late 2017 Trump tweet misspelling Lima to Ligma, causing massive outcry from Lima advocates to the Ligma Lima rallies at the White House lawn.
I do remember that. I know it's a little funny for viewers to understand, but there are people out there within our circles and around the world that are bean enthusiasts, and all of beandom, lima bean lovers are some of the most tenacious and outspoken group. Because for the longest time, Chris, I know you remember this. You're learning about the early Lima revolts in the 70s and 80s in your studies right now. Mm-hmm. The people had to hide the fact that they love lima beans, and for the most part, they still have to hide today. And it's really disheartening when you have I think really a large group of people that secretly like lima beans. And they have to hide the fact that they do for fear of, some form of, attack or verbal, attack on themselves for liking lima beans. I remember fondly my younger brother who just absolutely loved lima beans. He would come home many, many days, say, "Papa, please cook the lima beans." Of course, my father, being the great man that he is, cooked up as many lima beans as he could wrestle at the store. But when I came back one day after going off to college, and I was visiting him one day at school, and he was just being bullied ferociously by anti-bean kids on the playground. It was just really disheartening, and it's really what set me off. To be an activist for bean culture, but really, that's just my personal story. A little bit of conjecture there, but Chris, I know you're very, with you being in school, you're very passionate about beans, especially lima beans right now. What do you have to say as regards to the underground bean movement?
What really got me more involved in it was just the deep history roots of the lima bean. The bean that, like we talked about, the bean that won the war, the bean that possibly won the election. It's, for crying out loud, people, what do you not see in this bean? We discussed the health benefits, we discussed good recipes to cook them right, the deep roots in history. What is there not to love about this bean? And Adam, I think you were discussing the history a little bit ago with the founding fathers. And when I was doing my origin study over the lima bean, 6,000 years ago in Peru, and in Peru, it was only the elite, the ruling elite that ate them. And this is 100% confirmed too by history. And so, it's only fitting that our founding fathers love the lima beans too. So I think.
Oh, of course. I think.
Yeah.
It's a very underrated bean. Now, it does have its stigma of being poisonous, But I mean, that's in very rare cases. And with today's capital markets, capitalistic markets, you're not going to get a raw bean unless you literally buy them from Alibaba and wholesale. Now, I don't know who has enough money or has the appetite to buy 20 metric tons of beans. You can get, probably 20 metric tons for like $1,000, half a K, something like that. With the nutrition value of these beans, they shouldn't be underrated. You could feed entire third world countries with strictly beans. These beans are just miracle things, and that's why, I could see why the Peru people absolutely love these beans. Even our more than dad founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson loved them. Our authors from France who absolutely despised America wrote that it was the only positive thing that she found in America was lima beans. So, we shouldn't be underrating these beans in any aspect. And they just are continuing to have an influence on today's culture. And I think they're just severely underrated and misconstrued in today's media.
I could not agree more, guys. And it's, I've known you guys for several years now, but anytime you guys, really speak truth to power in terms of beans, it really lights a fire in me to just continue to push for bean equality around the world, to push for, different bean advocacy groups to really spark the fire in others to enjoy beans, to love beans, and to promote beans. I know that an issue that the younger people are having with these beans is there's a little bit of a stigma because, like you said earlier, the lima bean is also known as the Chad bean. And anyone that's been around the internet for long enough, they understand that there's two subcultures of people. There's the loser people, the neckbeard, and then there's the Chad. All right, not saying I agree with these titles, but it is common on the internet to understand that there are Chad beans and then there are neckbeard beans. And I think that this is one of those beans that really is seen as the catalyst of Chad beans. And so there's this also negative stigma that because it is known as the Chad bean, that is somehow pompous and not only will kill you, but will steal your girl. And I think that really destigmatizing beans, starting with the lima bean, is a great place to start, which is why it's the first episode of our bean talk. Now, kind of transitioning away from some of the history, we are running a little long on time, but I've, of course, Mr. Lima Bean himself, who sponsored the show, gave us a little bit of extra beans just so we could, if we needed the extra time, we could really push it.
Yeah, sorry, Joel. Mr. Lima Bean is a great human being. Without him, this stream wouldn't be possible. So again, thank you, Mr. Lima Bean, for the fantastic sponsorship.
And we can really go into next episode we can go into user questions and questions you've sent in, and we can of course get into more calls. But for right now, I just want to end it with a simple quiz. All right, what bean are you? And it's going to be very user friendly. I'm going to go through it. And I want you both to kind of tell me what beans you are. And anyone in the chat, you can type in what your answer is to the bean related question, or you can send it in at the email listed on the page. But the first question is: when you walk into a club, a techno, trip hop, Euro synth style pub, are you A, down to clown like a kidney bean, all high and mighty? 2, a chickpea. 3, Lima. Or 4, black bean style. Muy caliente from head to toe. You're sexy and I know it.
I would definitely say I'm definitely the last one there, Joel.
You're black bean style? Interesting. Chris, what about you?
I have to go with Lima.
All right, good choice.
Yeah,
good choice. So for the sake of continuity, I'm going to be going with Adam's answers. I'm going to input in. And then next episode, we can input in Chris's responses. So number 2, which 90s femme teen trend would you most align to yourself with, bean-wise? A, black bean-style locker photos of Jonathan Brandelis. 2, Chicopee Chief folders. 3, Jared Leto, a.k.a. Jordan Catalano, a.k.a. Lima Beans. Or 4, kidney bean slap bracelets.
I'm gonna have to go with the kidney bean slap bracelets. I was pretty big into slap bracelets back then.
Chris, what about you?
I'd say the slap bracelet also.
All right, good choice. Which MLB team do you support? The Boston Black Beans, B, New York Kidneys, C, the St. Louis Chickpeas, or D, the Cleveland Lima Beans?
I'm gonna have to try to get as homebound as I can, and I'm gonna go with the St. Louis answer on that one.
All right, Chris?
Boston.
All right. Number 4, which Sex and the City character do you closely identify with? A, Heisenberg, the quirky yet dangerous chickpea. 2, the great Lima Bean herself. C, Charlotte, the group's black bean. Or D, Samantha, kidney bean style.
Considering I don't watch this show, so this might throw off the results a little bit, but I'm probably gonna have to go with the first answer on that one.
All right.
I was going to go with the first answer also.
Okay, here's the most controversial question of all, really. Number 5, what is your favorite bean? A, the soybean. 2, the runner bean. 3, peanut. Or 4, green bean.
I'm definitely gonna have to go with the 4 on that one. I've always been a massive green bean advocate. It's just an amazing bean that is probably my favorite tasting bean. I cannot betray it. I'm gonna have to go with that answer.
Oh, what were the first 2 options again?
Soybean and runner bean.
I'll have to go with soybean.
All right. So this question is kind of a cop-out. What is your favorite Lima bean? A Lima bean. B, a Lima bean. C, a Lima bean. And 4, a peanut. Thoughts?
I'm gonna have to go with the middle child Lima beans. I'm gonna go with number 2 on that one.
All right. So,
one of my professors said, when in doubt, guess C. So I'll go with C on that.
All right. And here's the last question. And like I said, this is a quiz that I've used. I didn't write this. This is from Being You. So any offensive content in here that I might read is not my personal opinion. To those of you who love beans out there, but I think it's a good. I think it's a decent question. So number 6 is, what is your preferred method of eating a bean? Option A, put black beans in your car so you'll go real far. Break down after only a mile and find yourself with a case of denial. Walk to the nearest building, an orphanage, and raid their meagerly stocked fridge. I'm going to skip the middle part because it's inappropriate. Just when you've lifted them back up and there's hope to reveal them a nasty surprise. You want to see how bad they can feel, so you tell them now Santa isn't real. You know it's not true, but as you see them feeling more blue, you feel happiness and content, and you can finally relent. You eat those beans all day and night, and those kids can't steal it without a fight. Correct. So you basically, the gist of this is you go to an orphanage after you put your only beans in your car, them being black beans, and then after your car breaks down, it's for some reason next to an orphanage, and then you raid the orphanage's beanstalk, which also happens to have black beans, and while you're stealing their beans, you tell them Santa isn't real for whatever reason. Like I said, this is written by some of the top bean scholars in the country. I'm not going to question them, but I realize that in 2019 you have to really be careful with really who you're talking to. So okay. that is how you eat black beans. Option B, we're going to skip that one because you're basically tossing a can of kidney beans at some old man's head and pray to the only God you know. Option C, okay. It doesn't matter as long as you get to eat that sweet, sweet lima meat. And 4, steal chickpeas from the homeless shelter so the homeless man has no food. So I think when you take a step back, this question not only asks you how you would eat these beans, but also asks philosophical questions, which is often overlooked in the bean community. Many people
I think
see
so.
beans and philosophy as totally different, when I think they're very much intertwined. So how do you guys feel? A, B, C, or D?
I don't like to mistreat my beans. Every bean should be used for the greater good. So I would not put them in a car, and then it's just a little outside my comfort zone. The throwing the beans, if you could recoup them, and maybe the old man was able to eat them. There's not enough information in that answer for me to go with that one, so I'm gonna have to go with that sweet lima meat. It's the most simple, most moralic answer that I think just fits me. And then D, I can't go with that one. I don't think that one would fit me at all.
So you're gonna be a C man.
I'm gonna go with the sweet lima meat. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, I think Adam hit the nail on the head there.
All right, let's get these test results. Ooh, this is a bit controversial. We are actually very divided on what kind of bean we are. We're a 30% kidney bean. You enjoy long walks on the beach and a cheeky rosé. For 30% of us, we're chicken nugget, the queen of all beans. And for 20%, you're a lima bean. So really, when we look at that, we're kind of in a mixture here. So we're somewhere.
That doesn't add to 100, does it?
Huh? It doesn't. This is, like I said, I'm not going to question the scholars over at BU. But I think I'm going to recalculate here. I'm inputting in the lima formula and the kidney bean formula. Interpolating that using a little bit of the calculus I learned at BU. And it seems that there was a miscalculation, and so we're right at about 35% on the scale, which means that the score wasn't necessarily clear, but we're leaning more towards the bean that we are, or that you are, Adam, is the chicken nugget, which is the queen of all beans, like previously mentioned.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption of me. I'm always going to McDonald's and always getting the beans, aka the old McNuggets. So I could see that one. That one fits me to a T. I'm a little excited to see what Chris is going to be next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important to take this a few times to really get in the bean headspace. So with that, we're going to start wrapping it up for this episode of Bean Talk. It has been a pleasure, Adam and Chris, to talk to you. I just want to thank Mr. Lima Bean again for sponsoring this content, this show, and I look forward to the next couple shows. Adam, Chris, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having us on. A big thank you. And I'm going to go have a little talk with my professor, Dr. Giante, from Del Monte, and see if we can fix up those results and square up that quiz for you.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. Chris?
Yes, thank you to the viewers who have tuned in. And thank you to our callers. Not all of you got through, but I promise you will next time. And thank you to Mr. Lima Bean. And thank you to Joel for having us on the show.
All right. And with that, I will say thank you all again for listening. This has been Bean Talk, Episode 1, The Mighty Lima Bean. Thank you all for tuning in.